First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the Sports Guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now,
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. We're on the road this week. I'm actually back in Boston for Game 2 of the Hawks-Celtics series. I just could not resist. That's what it came down to. I couldn't handle it. But was still able to wrangle a guest for this week's show. He was available. He's always available. The talented Mr. Roto, Matthew Berry.
Yeah, I am. I am your break glass in case of emergency guest.
You're my Terry Garr.
I really am.
No, but we did say we were going to start doing this every 4 weeks or so.
Yeah.
And by doing this, I mean the podcast.
Right. Yes,
not,
I think
not
that's
cocaine.
right. That we need to do a lot more often.
Yeah.
I like the two questions just in your intro here. First off, you say we're on the road, and by we you really mean you, because I didn't get an invite to the Lakers, the Celtics Hawks game.
True.
And the other thing that was interesting is you said, you can go back and listen to the tape. You go, we're here for the Hawks Celtics. I'm fascinated that you put the Hawks first.
The Hawks are the road team. They go first.
They are the road team, but come on, it's a Celtics game. You think anyone, not even in Atlanta, are they calling it the Hawks Celtics game?
You're right. I should have just called them like the lambs being led to the slaughter, because that's really what it is. And plus, I found out this week that they're staying at like a swank hotel in Boston that has the hottest bar in town.
Uh-huh.
I won't mention the hotel because I don't want people crank calling it, but I don't think that's a good sign for the young Hawks. You don't want to be at the place with the hot bar for 4 days.
Stop it! Of course you do. Of course you do. Look,
you do if you're the Celtics. You want them there.
Stop. Yeah, listen. Honestly, do you think anyone, literally anyone, even the Hawks, think they have a chance at this thing? They don't. So you know what this is? This is like you know when the scrub college gets to go to like, you know, Hawaii or something like that, and you're like, why are you flying across the country to get your butts kicked? And it's like,
right.
Well, because this is the recruiting trip. Like, hey, come on, we're going to treat you right. You've been getting your butts kicked in Atlanta for all these years. Now, look, you're going to lose in 4 days, but here, have the hot bar, you know? Be athletes.
Well, I think 9-10 months from now, we could see some young Atlanta Hawks being born in the Boston area. I'm excited.
I think.
Keep your eye on Al Horford Jr. in 18 years at Brookline High.
And you have to wonder, here's my other question for you. I think that's very true, by the way. I think, and by the way, here's a question for you. If you're a young woman on the prowl.
Yeah.
That's a good question. If you're a young woman on the prowl and you're going to this hot bar in Boston, which Hawk are you trying to trap?
The young ones.
Well, right. So you think Horford, you think one of the Williams, Sheldon, or Marvin?
Sheldon got traded to Sacramento.
Right.
It would be awkward if he was there.
Fair enough. I don't follow the Hawks as closely as you do, apparently.
Well, it depends what you want out of your encounter. Like if you're just looking for the slam bam, thank you ma'am child that the NBA player will then support, I think you go for a younger Hawk. I think if you're looking for a potential husband, you go for somebody in the mid-20s. Maybe a little more willing to settle down.
Yeah, I don't really think a potential husband on the Hawks.
I feel like
I think if you're going for this potential husband, I think it's Zaza Pachulia. Because he can't speak English. That way you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, I always wanted somebody to just follow around. I remember one magazine a couple years ago did a story on NBA groupies, and I just loved it, and I just felt like cameras should be following them around at all times. But I guess it would be tough because none of the NBA players would sign the release forms to go on camera.
I'll tell you this. I mean, you and I have both been guests of the NBA at the All-Star Game.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed. I mean, the groupies come out in full force. Because since I've been able to be at ESPN, I've managed to weasel my way into a bunch of events that I have no business being at. Mm. And so, like, whether it was the Super Bowl or the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, I've never seen groupies come out in full force like they do at the NBA All-Star Game.
I think full force is an understatement.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes it seem like it's just a big thing. I mean, it goes well beyond full force. This is like the event of the year for like 10,000 women, basically.
It is basically the current modern day equivalent of the end of Pat Benatar's "Love Is a Battlefield" video.
Yeah.
Right? Where they're all coming on. Like there's literally rows and rows of women shaking it and coming right at you.
I wrote a couple years ago, I think after Houston, one of the trips, that I'm convinced that they actually coordinate their ovulation cycles to coincide with All-Star Weekend. I wouldn't rule that out.
No.
But anyway, we got to talk fantasy.
All right.
I feel like a lot of stuff has happened. We're only at, what is it, April 20th?
Yeah.
April 21st? I feel like this season has been 2 months long already. Like, you think of all, like, the stuff that's happened. Like, you know,
Crazy.
J.J. Poots gets hurt. And, Frank Thomas released.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of minor events that you add them all up together, and then you throw in the Phil Hughes, Ian Kennedy serial killer combo, and some closers going down. Johnny Cueto.
I think it's Cueto.
What was the guy in Total Recall?
I don't know.
What was the guy? The weird looking alien at the end of Total Recall.
No, I know exactly who you're talking about, and I can't think of it.
Schwarzenegger says his name too. I thought it was Cueto. Maybe it was Quaid. Cueto.
I don't know. You'll get we're not going to answer it because this will save.
Yeah.
Now 400 people have like something to email you about.
Yeah, forget it. I rescind the question. But what do you think's been the biggest fantasy story so far?
The biggest fantasy story so far.
Here's my thing would be, I think, the Hughes-Kennedy combo, because everybody rolled the dice with those guys, or at least Hughes in mixed leagues, but in AL leagues, I think Kennedy had a lot of value.
Well, up until I don't think that's the biggest story. I mean, I think up until a week ago it would have been the Tigers, the complete collapse of the Tigers.
But for fantasy though,
oh my God, everyone was gaga over the Tigers. Cabrera was a first-round pick. People love Sheffield and people love Magliardonez. Justin Verlander went really high in a lot of drafts. Edgar Renteria and Curtis Granderson were both really sexy sleepers this year.
Stop it! Don't say sexy.
Stop. He was very sexy, dude. I'm still in Bristol. That's all I'm saying.
I don't like it.
But so Granderson was a guy going in the fourth round. So I think that is a story. And then to me, the biggest story now is, the Tigers have turned around, but Sabathia and Verlander, those two guys being so terrible, Roy Oswalt being terrible up until basically his last start or so. So some of the big name guys that really haven't produced, and then the guys that have some of the guys that have come out of nowhere, like Xavier Nady. I mean, I liked him for 30 home runs. He's on a pace for like 45. Michael Bourne, who I thought would steal 40 bases, is on pace to steal over 100. So guys like that. I mean, I think Kennedy and Hughes, a lot of people felt like they were rookies. They were rookies. I wasn't counting on them nearly as much as maybe you were or some other people.
Well, here's why they're the big story for me, because they're both on my AL fantasy team. And right now, wins count for 2 and losses count -1, giving us the -5. And like the minus in the something like a 10 ERA.
But okay, question for you. Let's talk about this. All right, because I'm fascinated by this because before you were the sports guy, Bill Simmons, you were the Boston sports guy.
We talked about this.
And I got to be honest with you, you do a very good job of hiding it. But every once in a while, it creeps into your column that you're a Boston sports fan.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a while.
Every once in a while. So how can a guy that literally is true Red Sox nation, not some bandwagon fan like a lot of these Celtics fans. Me and Mike Bibby on the same page here. How come you can own a guy like Kennedy or Hughes? I remember last year you and I are in a league, and you picked up Hughes as soon as he came up, and I emailed you, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I said, what did I say?
I think you said, it's reverse psychology. By me owning him, he's going to get rocked. And, of course, he did.
Yeah.
So is this like your ultimate, because you know that your fantasy prowess will, some sort of reverse curse on these guys?
Here's the thing. I think I just wrote about this in a mailbag. When you can't say in fantasy that I'm not going to take certain guys, because first of all that's stupid because you're reducing the pool of players you get. But also the other guys in your draft, if they know you're not going to take Yankees, you've removed yourself from the bidding, from being a contender for any of the guys. So I just don't think you can do it. But more importantly, I don't mind having Yankees because when they do badly, it's not a bad thing because they're on the Yankees.
Right.
Whereas if I have CC Sabathia, it's just I'm destroyed psychologically and there's no real upside. I don't really care that Cleveland's in the tank because whatever. But
what about when they do well?
When they do well, then my fantasy team does well. It's a silver lining for the fact that the Yankees are profiting from these guys. So I feel like I have my bets are hedged no matter where I'm going.
I cannot make peace with it. I got to be honest. You have the exact right attitude. that that they are literally statistical pieces of meat, and you
Right.
can't. It doesn't matter what clothes they're wearing.
Right.
But still, it's one of those things like just a view of all people. Like it's just certain things you're so identified with Boston sports and homerism. For you to own Yankees players, it's kind of like totally. Look, it's just one of those things that's like Sidney Poitier. Like you never want to see Sidney Poitier drinking a Zima. You know, he may love Zima, I don't know, but the guy's like the classiest guy in the world, and to see him drinking a Zima, you're like, what? Come on, you're Sidney Poitier. You're an American icon.
Sidney Poitier, could that be like a more dated reference?
Oh, I could do much more dated.
Why didn't you use Gene Harlow?
Right, exactly. It'd be like Orson Welles ordering a Pabst Blue Ribbon. There you go. So now I've got an old guy and an old beer.
I'm not going to defend it. I mean, I turn my blinders on when I have a fantasy draft, and I don't try to think about which teams I like and don't like. The only thing that I really do that I shouldn't do is in our minor league draft of the AL League, I always take the Red Sox prospects. Just because I feel like I know more about them, and maybe I have more of an advantage with those guys. But I think that's even dangerous, too, because if those guys don't pan out, it kills you twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's very true. It's always tough to have all your eggs in that one basket. Hey,
Yeah.
Speaking of Boston prospects, I like this kid, Jed Lowry.
Yeah, he's on my... We took two guys this year. We took Jed Lowry and we took Justin Masterson, who's coming up within the next 6 weeks, so I think it's going to be good. Lowry's really good. Like he's got a nice bat. I'm not sure if he's a shortstop. He seems like a little big and a little slow to me to be a shortstop. I see him at second base, which makes me think that they're going to trade him at some point. But I think he's legit. Sean Casey also has been quietly a fantasy. If you're in an AL league, it's been kind of a surprise.
Yeah, well, he is. I mean, he's a guy. He's a career 300 hitter. He's a total kind of Theo guy in terms of an on-base guy. Definitely like him. Yeah.
My thing with the AL is you want guys who are on the teams that are going to score runs, and it doesn't even matter if they're Sean Casey or Ryan Rayburn or whoever. You just want guys who are going to be in those lineups, because those lineups, especially as the season goes on and we get into June, July, August, and you have these doubleheaders and you got pitchers going down, like we're going to see some crazy run totals, I think.
Yeah, we are. But I don't know that that's earth-shattering news.
No,
you want guys on teams that run a lot.
No, I'm saying this year, this particular year,
okay.
I think there's going to be more runs in that July-August stretch than normal. And I just think pitching staffs are just going to get brutalized. I mean, we're already seeing it, guys. We're seeing starters already starting to go down on some of the big guys.
Well, dude, look at the AL. I mean, we talked about this in the preseason. There's no pitching in the American League. Like, even before the season, with Santana going out, and then you've got, Bedard going down, and the guys that were actually healthy. Sabathia and Verlander are struggling. John Lackey goes down with an injury. Kelvin Escobar out with an injury. I mean, Felix Hernandez has been pretty good, but Beckett, scratched again last night. I'm still not a Dice K believer. In terms of from a fantasy perspective, I think he gets you strikeouts and wins, but I think he kills your ERA and WHIP for in terms of how much you have to pay to get him. So, I mean, there's a lot of question marks across the board in terms of pitching in the American League. So there's not a lot of good pitching, I think.
Well, what bothers me is that it was such a crapshoot this year, and we knew it in my league. I mean, we knew that the $1 pitchers and the $3 starters and those guys were going to decide who was going to be good. And then you see it, and these guys that I can't even think of their names off the top of my head are just as good as Eric Bedard at $28. So it almost kind of makes me mad. Like, I don't like it. I think it's become poker. It's just basically you're waiting for the flop and hoping that it goes your way, but there's not a ton of skill.
I mean, I disagree, obviously, and only because my entire livelihood depends on that.
Right.
But you can tell certain things in terms of underlying skill sets, and that you can't predict injuries. But, there are certain guys that we said, like, this is a guy that we think could break out. This is a guy that has a lot of red flags, and you can somewhat tell. You can't obviously predict the future, but trends generally show what they're supposed to do. Most baseball players do what they're supposed to do.
Here's the number one pitching staff in my American League right now.
All right.
You've got Roy Halladay, 29.
Yep.
That's fair. Gavin Floyd, Jason Hamill,
okay,
Bobby Jenks, Jesse Litch, Kevin Millwood, Mike Mussina, Joe Nathan, Andy Pettit, and Jared Washburn.
Right. And
that is not a murderer's row.
And it's not going to be the number one team at the end of the year. Of those guys that you mentioned, other than Hallett, I mean, Jesse Litch isn't for real. He doesn't strike anyone out. I do like Gavin Floyd.
I do like him too, but how do you know before the season that Gavin Floyd is I mean, everybody had that guy as a sleeper 2 years ago and last year.
Right. But the reason they had him as a sleeper is the same reason he's doing well now, is that he's shown skills that have led him to success in the past. Like, this is a guy that was a highly touted prospect in the Philly system. For a lot of years, it was Cole Hamels, it was Brett Myers, it was Gavin Floyd, it was Randy Wolf. You heard about these guys forever as like kind of the young guys, and this is over the course of, many years, obviously. They're all different ages, but, they were always kind of the young studs of Philadelphia, and now finally, Gavin Floyd's only like 25 years old. I mean, it just seems like he's been around forever, but there's a reason he was a highly touted prospect for all those years. There's a reason that the White Sox, when they did the Freddie Garcia deal, traded for him. They saw something in him.
But how do you explain Kevin Millwood and Andy Pettit, both with the ERAs under 2.5?
Those guys suck. You explain it because they're major league pitchers that have been around for a while. They're not going to end. I will guarantee you right now, both pitchers in the year with an ERA over 4.
I don't like
both guys are sell highs.
I just like having more certainty with starters. I don't like the crapshoot mentality of, okay, I'll be the guy who takes Kevin Millwood for $5, and I'll be the guy who has the 27% chance that he will be half decent.
Well, of course not. That's why, to use a cliche, that's why you play the games. No one likes the uncertainty. But if you could tell the future, my friend, you wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, but it's. I feel like this year is like poker.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, and I don't think that, I don't think the National League is like that. I think the National League it would be much more fun to be in the National League this year because I feel like there would be more skill, and if you knew what you were doing, you'd have a greater advantage.
I totally disagree. I mean, I think there's surprises because there's surprises every year. I mean, there's guys that come out of nowhere that you're. I mean, listen. I think I'm pretty good at what I do, and I'm pretty good at. But I couldn't have told you Todd Wellmeyer or any of the Cardinals were going to be any good. Kyle Loesch, are you kidding me? And by the way, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it from Loesch. Wellmeyer, I think possibly. But, I mean, there's guys like that.
I think Wellmeyer's funny because I think everybody who's in a fantasy league has seen his stats this year and, ooh. And then they click on his player card for whatever the website they're using, and it's kind of inexplicable.
Right.
He's like 30. There's been no hint of this ever at any point in his career. So, I mean, it seems like an aberration. I do think there are a couple of the guys who have started out fast this year I think are legit. But for the most part, it seems like just mostly washed up guys or guys who are good for a month and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. If you can ask me a guy that you think, I can sort of play a name game with you. A guy that you think is good, I'm happy to say I think he's for real. I think he's legit.
All right, filibuster for a second. I'm going to go on you know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to ESPN.com.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for checking that out.
All right, Cliff Lee, 0.4 ERA.
No, not real. Doesn't strike anyone out. To me, a guy's got to have a strikeout per 9 rate of over 6, and he's got to have at least a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk rate for me to believe it's real. Very rare are the cases where those numbers aren't in line and the guy gets it done. Yes, every once in a while you find a Greg Maddux, but you know what? Generally speaking, and by the way, his strikeout to walk rate is phenomenal, obviously, because he didn't walk anyone. But
true or false? Cliff Lee, 20 strikeouts in 22 innings this year.
My guess is that's true. My guess is that's true.
It's apparently true. I'm stunned.
I'm stunned. I mean, I'm stunned by it too, but I'm not buying it. I mean, that's a guy that just, I don't buy it. He is striking guys out this year, but that's not necessarily what he normally does. And by the way, his one great year, he had one great year. He fell off in the second half. To me, that's a guy who's sell high.
Let's blow through these quick. John Smoltz, 0.78.
Legit. Totally legit.
I'm not going to ask you about Ben Sheets because he's going to get hurt. In fact, he probably got hurt.
He already is hurt. He already is hurt. He's missing his next start.
I think him and Rich Harden should just live together.
By the way, John Walsh offered me, after Rich Harden's first 2 starts, John Walsh, our mutual friend, offered me Ben Sheets for Rich Harden. And I said no. He says Sheets for Harden. And I said no. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because Harden and Sheets have the same amount of risk, and I think Harden has more upside. He's like, you're crazy. And then Harden goes on the DL, and Walsh sends me this, chuckling email. Should have made the deal, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, we'll see. And then, of course, Sheets gets hurt, and, I'm going to have the last laugh on that one.
Edinson Volquez.
Legit.
I think he's legit, too. I have him in the stupid NL league that I got roped into being. Zach Greinke?
Not as good as he has been, but, yeah, I think he's legit. Him and Brian Bannister, by the way.
Yeah, Brian Bannister's good.
Yeah, I got a great stat for you.
How many complete game 3 hitters can he throw before we take him seriously?
It's probably going to take a while because he's in Kansas City, but I got a great stat for you. This is from Elias. Since I believe it's July, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so email Bill if I get it wrong, but you don't have to bother me with it. But since July 1st of last year, when he was traded to the Royals from the Mets, only Brandon Webb and Chien-Ming Wang have more wins in Major League Baseball than Brian Bannister.
Wow.
Isn't that a fascinating stat?
Wow. Thank God Kazmir hasn't really panned out. Because the combo of those two, the Mets fans would be drinking.
Oh, I know. Right?
I want to ask you about the Lincecum and Hernandez, because those guys are legit. Danny Herron's legit.
Yeah.
Cole Hamels we think is
of
legit.
Course,
How about this Dana Eveland?
Yeah, a lot of people like him. He keeps getting traded for. I think he's sort of legit. I mean, Oakland is a great ballpark to pitch in. Remember that last year there was only one ballpark that gave up less runs per game than Oakland. So it was the second best pitcher's park last year. So, McAfee Coliseum makes up for a lot of mistakes. I think he's young. I don't think he's this good, but yeah, I think he's kind of legit.
I think in the AL, there are two teams that when they have guys or, guys they acquire from other teams and all of a sudden those guys are starting or they're setup guys, you kind of look at them a little bit longer. Or the two teams are Oakland and KC for me. Because I feel like
definitely
Billy
Oakland.
Beane knows what he's doing, and I think the Kansas City GM knows what he's doing. And if he goes and gets somebody or they have some Rule 5 guy that they keep or whatever, I don't know. I just feel like he knows something. He has inside info. You like that theory or no?
I like the theory in Oakland. I definitely like the theory in Oakland. I'm with you on Billy Beane. There's definitely general managers that you think might be able to get something out of him. I'm not as convinced on Kansas City as you are.
I like the KC guy, Drayton Moore.
Yeah.
We have Leo Nunez in our team. I've been enjoying his work.
All right, that's fine. You know what? I got to be honest. When Joe Meade emailed me and said, "Can you be on Bill's podcast today?" I'm always prepared for a wide range of topics. Leo Nunez was not on the list. I was pretty sure we were going to get through the podcast without Leo Nunez coming up.
All right, a couple more pitchers.
Yeah.
How about Micah Owings?
Love Micah Owings. Absolutely love. He was on my preseason sleeper list. You look at what he did last year in August and September. Really strong strikeout per 9 rate. Absolutely love Micah Owings.
Nick Blackburn?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, there's something there, but I just don't think he sticks in the rotation the whole year. Only in a deep AL only league. Huh?
I'm going to say he gets shelled within one of the next 3 starts.
Yeah, probably. He's a young pitcher. Young pitchers are prone to do that. I think in a deep AL only league, Nick Blackburn has value, but that's pretty much it.
Roger Clemens' former friend Andy Pettitte.
No. Andy Pettitte finishes the year with an over 4 ERA.
Oliver Perez?
Legit.
Kevin Millwood, you're down on. Kyle Loesch?
No, just too many. His strikeout to walk rate is terrible. Even with as well as he's pitching right now.
A staple of my AL team, Mr. Irvin Santana.
Actually legitimate.
I agree.
Because of the 2 starts on the road. When he mowed down Texas at Arlington, I said, okay, now I buy.
And he's somebody that, if you're looking long-term at the AL, has to be a Cy Young candidate, I think, if he can pitch like this. Because how many guys on the 90-win teams could potentially win 20 games? You know?
That's crazy to think about, but you're absolutely right.
Like, what Yankee is going to win 20 games? What Red Sox is going to win 20 games other than maybe Dice? I don't know.
That's crazy.
And then I guess Fausto, if the Indians are in the mid-90s.
Yeah. No.
White Sox don't really have.
No. I could see Felix Hernandez if Seattle surprises in the West.
Right.
But
I love Cy Young talk after 3 weeks.
I know, it's crazy. but you look at Santana's numbers, right? He's got like a 2.67 ERA.
Yeah.
He's 3-0, 22-6 strikeouts to walk. I mean, so more than 3-1. I mean, it's in 4 games. I mean, the numbers are fantastic.
Thoughts on the latest Japanese guy that the Dodgers ended up with that none of us totally took seriously, and now his stats are good?
Which Hiroki Kuroda?
Yeah.
Don't like him at all. From a fantasy perspective, he's a ground ball pitcher. Yankees. Thinking Yankees because of Torrey. Ground ball pitcher, and the Dodgers one of the worst fielding percentages in the major leagues last year. And then you look at like what he did with his last start, where he gave up only 2 earned runs. He put like 11 guys on base in 6 innings. Like I always look at hits and walks quite a bit, as opposed to earned runs. I mean that's always important. But how many base runners is the guy putting on? Because obviously the more base runners you're putting on, the worse it is. Guys with bad whips I don't like a lot. You can't chase wins. So strikeouts I value in a huge way, not just because it's a category in most leagues, but also because in the simplistic form, it's like when a guy is striking out, nothing bad can happen. If a guy gets a bat on a ball, something bad can happen. A home run can happen, a run can come in, an error can happen, it can fall for, but if he strikes out, nothing bad can happen. So, I don't like, for fantasy, I really don't like control guys that rely on their defense that much. I try to get strikeout guys as much as possible.
Do you buy into the Jake Westbrook? His career has totally been altered by his changeup thing.
No, I'm not buying Westbrook, who, by the way, just went on the DL. So.
Yeah, but not with anything major.
No, not with anything major. Right. But you know what? Actually, I do this fantasy focused podcast. We do it every single day.
Yep.
Available at the same place the BS Report is at Pod Center.
You've almost turned into the Truman Show.
Yeah.
2 more hours per day of content, and you would become Truman.
I know it really is. They are earning. ESPN is getting every last penny out of me. Make no mistake.
You're like one of those cows that has like 9 nipples being milked at once by 10 farmhands.
I like that. I am the 9 nipple cow. ESPN's 9 nipple cow.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Stefania Bell, who's like our injury person here, and she's fantastic. She was on the podcast with me, and we talked about Westbrook, and she said this is very similar to an injury he had a couple of years ago, so she's actually concerned. She thinks they're saying it's no big deal, and she's willing to buy it for right now, but she says she thinks you could see this reoccur throughout the year.
Oh.
So.
That's not good.
Yeah. Listen to the podcast, all sorts of good little nuggets like that.
In your column on ESPN.com.
Look at you. You're turning into a company man slowly but surely.
You did a bunch of lists, and one of the lists was 10 guys hitting worse than 200, whom I am not worried about. See, I would have written who, and I'm sure the editors changed it because God forbid we aren't grammatically incorrect.
Right.
Or God forbid we are grammatically incorrect. 2 names on this list that are relative shockers. Troy Tulowitzki, who is really a bandwagon guy, as not just like as having a big year, but like as people are throwing around as an MVP candidate. He got benched yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Not worried about him.
No, I mean, what's shocking to you, that he's hitting below 200, or the fact that I'm not worried about him?
I mean, he's on my mixed league team. I'm worried about him. I don't like when a guy is hitting 176, and I don't like when he gets benched. Those are two no-nos in my mind. Call me crazy.
Yeah, well, you are. All right, but I'm going to tell you this. Last year, in April, he hit 244. Now, obviously, he's hitting much worse than this, but you look at what he did last year, April 244, then May 303, June 289, July 262, back up in August at 333. April was his worst month last year, so you can certainly make the argument that the guy's a slow starter.
So you're going to make the same argument about Robinson Cano then?
Yes.
Well, who is a proven slow starter?
Who's a proven slow starter. And by the way, you look at Cano's numbers the last 3 years. Each of the last 3 years, home runs, RBIs have gone up each of the last 3 years. Basically, all the important numbers have gone up. He's on an upward trend. Actually love Robinson Cano this year.
How you feeling about David Ortiz?
David Ortiz is on my list of guys hitting below 200 that I am worried about. I'm concerned about injury with him. I think my thing about Ortiz is I think basically people paid for 45 home runs, and I think they're going to get 30 to 35 this year.
Yeah. He went for like 37 in my AL draft. My thing with that is if you spend that kind of money on a first baseman and that guy doesn't pan out, you're really killed.
Yes.
Because at least if it's a center fielder or a shortstop or whatever, you fill that position with somebody who's going to be above average. But if you get below average with first base for big money, you're done.
Yeah, that's a position you need a lot of production out of. It's that's very, very tough.
Or you go the other way and you don't spend any money and you try to patchwork it and try to get lucky with guys. But the worst case scenario is spending $40 on David Ortiz and having him hit 180.
Yeah, no.
You're not bouncing back from that.
No, the worst case scenario is spending $175 million on Barry Zito, but.
Well, at least everybody knew that was a horrible contract when they did it. Yeah, that was bad.
I mean, but don't.
Does he even qualify for the slow starter group, or is
no, he's done.
Slow? He's like disabled.
I did. Speaking of the 9-nippled cow, I did just before I came here. I did this. I do a little segment online with Steve Phillips called Fantasy versus Reality, where he gives like a little news thing, and then I give the fantasy spin.
Right.
And we talked about Jones, we talked about Carlos Delgado, and we talked about Zito. And he said, I think this could go down as the worst history ever in baseball. And I think you could make an argument this will be the worst hit contract in the history of professional sports.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah, worst free agent signing in the history of professional sports. And I think you could make an argument.
Mike Hampton's furious right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it is. But at least Hampton got a little something out of Hampton. They've gotten nothing out of Zito. And it's not like a Mo Vaughn thing where he got injured immediately. I mean, he's healthy. That's what's amazing.
There's a couple of things that worried me about it, like if I had been a Giants fan when it happened. The first was that the A's weren't really that interested in re-signing him.
Right.
Which should always make you nervous.
Yes.
You know, it's like you're interested in somebody else's girlfriend. They're like, dude, take her. I'll break up with her. I don't care.
Right.
So right away, that's a red flag. And then on top of it, just the amount of money they gave him, you create that level of expectations for somebody, you know, when you don't have to, and it's just dangerous.
Well, it is. I mean, he has to win the Cy Young award or be in the top 5 every year to justify that contract. Right. He has to be Johan Santana. Yeah. And he's not even Irvin Santana. No. He's terrible. This is a true story, by the way. I was in, when I lived in LA, I did I used to do Angels Talk. And I would fill in. I worked for the ESPN affiliate out there in Los Angeles, and I would fill in to doing the Angels post-game show when the guys were on road trips, right? And so they were heading to an Oakland series, and I was talking about the fact that I just didn't buy. Oakland was playing well recently, but that I didn't buy them, and I just didn't think Barry Zito was all that great. And literally, that's all I said is, I'm not convinced Barry Zito's all that great. I don't think he's all that. And I know there's trade talk about him. I wouldn't want him if he came here. Something kind of innocuous like that. Very innocuous in the, kind of the world of sports talk radio. Literally, his publicist called my boss, called the program director, called somebody else from ESPN. Like, literally, I had to send an email apologizing to Barry Zito for my negative. And I was just like, apparently, like, Barry Zito heard it and was all offended. This is whatever, sixth hand. I can't prove any of this other than the fact that I did get an email from my program director from the Barry Zito's publicist, very angry and upset with all these career stats about why he was awesome. And I was just like, and just that I negatively affected his value as he's entering a free agent year. And I'm like, what? I'm a dude on the radio. Are you kidding me? So anyway, so let me just say right now, Barry Zito sucks. I have 4.5 as the over-under for other gigs that you mentioned other than your ESPN.com as you're doing the podcast. Where am I at? When you say stuff like, I do this thing for Verizon on their cell phone. It's exclusive to that, or I argue about stuff with the Armenian comedian. Right. But yeah. Yeah, every Tuesday and Thursday I do a Stardom Cinema at the local Stop and Shop. It's just 10 minutes in aisle 6. It's a little, you come by and I sign a loaf of bread. Which Stop and Shop is that? The one in Bristol or the one in West Hartford? It's in Bristol. I haven't been able to get to the one in West Hartford because that's where the good-looking people are. I can't get there. That's where the single moms are. I know you were very upset with my pick of Kevin Garnett as MVP and Kobe Bryant as number 3. Making a California homer like everybody else back in LA. Make your case for Kobe. Well, let's use your this is your column that was on ESPN.com about your my MVP pick. Your MVP column. And where's your, let me see, I'm going to scroll down right here. My criteria was, the first one was, who is the player from the season that you'll remember in 10 years? Right. So you think that's Kobe and not Kevin Garnett? From this season, absolutely. Because when I think of the Lakers this year, I think of Kobe. Right? Well, you won't argue about that, right? I would actually if I'm looking back 10 years from now, I would say, was that the year that they hijacked
Pau
Pau
Gasol
Gasol.
from Memphis. That would be the first thing I thought of. I don't think Kobe did anything different this year than he did any other year other than complain for a trade.
Well, I except that he was just completely dominant. Hang on, we'll talk about this year versus other years in a second. But the thing about Boston is I don't think about Garnett at all. I think about those three guys. You always see the three of them together, and it's partially because of his kind of personality that Garnett's like, it's not just all about me. He's totally selfless. He's a class act, but it's Garnett, Pierce, and Ray Allen.
Okay, I'll concede that became the case in about February.
Right. But
in October, November, and
10
December,
years from now, you're going to think about those three guys.
No, I'm just saying in October, November, and December, KG and the Celtics were the dominant story in the league. And for some reason, with the MVP and just in general.
See, I disagree with that too. By the way,
Why?
I think they were the dominant story in your mind. No, the dominant story in the league during that time was the Pau Gasol trade and the Lakers and what they did. Hang on.
It didn't happen till the Super Bowl, though.
You just said January, February, March.
No. I said October, November, December.
All right, so that was around.
Who was on the cover of every magazine?
At the beginning of the year, they were the big story after their hot start. But then the Rockets, the Rockets were a big story, and of course that whole win streak.
That happened in February.
All right.
Ask me this: did you see a magazine before the season that didn't have the Celtics on the cover?
No, of course not.
They were the number one story. They had the most.
Of course, because they're such a crappy franchise, and they hijacked three guys.
Well, they
guys.
didn't. I mean,
two guys. They had Pierce.
They went, and then they go 30-3.
Right.
And everybody's talking about the Celtics are back. Are they for real?
Right.
And then starting in about mid-January or late January with the Gasol trade, the Houston streak, the Shaq trade, the Jason Kidd trade.
Right.
They got pushed out of the landscape, and now it's like KG. It never happened. That's the part I don't get.
Okay, but then how can you, when you say 10 years from now, who will be the first player that pops into your head? So how can you even answer? So for 2 months they were the hot thing. You know what? For 2 months, Greg Oden was the hot thing until he went down with an injury.
They won 66 games.
Great.
What more did you need from the season?
They won 66 games, and at least 5 of them were against quality opponents. But what do you think the Lakers or any of the teams in the West would have done in the East? You realize the team that didn't make the playoffs in the West.
20 more games.
The Golden State Warriors would have been the 3rd seed in the East, right?
It's 20 more games.
All right.
It's the difference of. So you're saying that the Lakers, instead of going 13-7 in the 20 extra games they played in the West, would have gone 19-1 in the 20 extra games against the East? Because that's the only way that argument makes sense.
Something like that would have been real close.
So instead of winning 55 games, they would have won 60.
62, 63.
I don't see it, and more importantly, I don't see the Kobe MVP thing because what I thought was really interesting.
You take Kobe away from that team is screwed.
How about this?
That team's screwed. Odom's great, Gasol's great. He's got better role players about him, but trust me when I tell you, you take Kobe Bryant away from the Lakers, that team is screwed. You take LeBron James away from the Cavs, that team is screwed. You take Kevin Garnett away from the Celtics, that team. Screwed, yes, but not nearly to the extent the other two because they're in the East, because of Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, because they've got some nice role players.
Are you taking them away the whole year, or are you taking them away like right now?
Take away the whole year.
Well, if you take away KG the whole year, then the Celtics are what they were last year. They would have won 24 games.
Same with what do you think the Lakers would have won without Kobe this year?
I watched the Lakers beat Denver handily in Game 1 of Round 1 of the playoffs in a game where Kobe went 9 for 26. Shot 13 free throws, had 1 assist, and had no impact on the game other than negative.
Oh, completely. First off, no, that's outrageous. How do you watch basketball? What do you time out?
I watched that whole game.
I did too, and how you can say that guy has no impact on the game?
I'm saying he had a bad game. He had a bad game.
He had a bad shooting game. No. He had a bad shooting game, but did you see Pau Gasol not have to take a shot beyond 1.5 feet from the basket? He was wide open so many times, and that's because of the ball movement, and that's because of the defensive pressure that Kobe takes. They had 2 guys on Kobe a lot of the time. They had to always account for where he was. Pau Gasol got tons and tons of looks.
The Lakers fans can even make excuses for Kobe when he has a bad game. Oh, but he created the scoring opportunities for Gasol just by being on the court.
Yes, he did. You have to account for him.
It's like the Bill Brasky skit on SNL. Kobe could jump 10 feet. Unbelievable.
Well, stop it.
Kobe had a terrible game in Game 1. You cannot tell me he did not have a terrible game.
He didn't have a great. He did not have
4 points in the first half,
and still finished with what, 30?
Because he took 26 shots and 14 free throws. Congratulations.
Yeah, you know what? And they blew it out, and he made it. Trust me, Kobe made some very tough shots. It's not all about offense. Kobe played very, very well. He played good defense.
Very well. He didn't play good defense. This guy was scoring on him. I mean, it's just such horse crap. Everybody's afraid to call this guy out.
Call this guy out. He's the best player on the planet.
Oh,
he's the best player on the planet.
I love how it's like Kobe's playing team basketball this year. Oh, congratulations. Kobe's playing with his teammates. Let's give him the MVP award. Because he's a team player now.
Stop.
Oh, it's awesome. None of his teammates even make eye contact with him. It's awkward. How can you say that he has like a normal relationship with his teammates?
So wait a minute, time out. What is the MVP? Like, who's most like in the locker room? Who's the best guy to go hang with? Who's the best wingman at the clubs? What are you talking about? It's not about that at all. It's about what's on the court. If you want to talk about, like, you know who people love? People love Bruce Bowen. Is Bruce Bowen the MVP?
Everybody hates Bruce Bowen.
I know.
I think even his teammates hate him.
I think so, too. I was trying to think of someone everyone liked.
Well, like everybody loves Sam Cassell.
Everyone loves Sam Cassell. There you go. Everyone loves Shaq, actually. Shaq. Right. People love Shaq in the locker room.
Did you watch Game 1 of the Celtics-Hawks series?
No, because I knew the outcome of it. But you're right. Kevin Garnett, blowing past Al Horford. Woo! He's awesome. A team that's below 500.
That everything that team does feeds off him. Emotionally, the defense. He's their only low post scorer.
Emotionally.
He is the guy that if you took off that team, they'd be a mess.
Oh, my God. Listen, I'll be the first to admit I wear purple and gold colored glasses. Yeah. I bleed the purple and gold. I'm a huge Laker fan. I'm a season ticket holder for more than 10 years. I still have my season tickets even though I live here in Bristol now. But I got to tell you something. When it comes to homerism, I'm nowhere compared to you, dude. And so they feed emotionally off of him. Hey, Ray, can I get a hug? Hang on, let me see if KG wants it.
Talk about intensity.
They feed emotionally. I don't high five unless KG's got my back.
What does
that mean?
Does intensity matter? Do you think Rajon Rondo becomes a good player without KG?
No, I don't think Rajon Rondo's a good player anyway.
Oh, see that now you've killed your argument.
Stop it. Rajon Rondo is okay.
All right, how about this? How about you spend the next 3 days on Google looking for a quote from any of Kobe's Laker teammates, pimping him for that MVP award. You go on Google and you look for 3 straight days and try to find one quote.
Okay, by the way, a couple things. When I spend 3 straight days on the Internet, the last thing I'm looking for is Kobe quotes. Let's make very clear about what I do on the Internet and what I don't.
Fair enough.
But secondly, it doesn't matter about what his teammates think.
No, the award is not most outstanding. It's most valuable. It's guy who means the most to his team. So I guess
and you're telling me that you think Kobe. That's not Kobe. Kobe's absolutely. I don't know that they all necessarily say, "Hey, I'd really like to go have a beer with Kobe," but they all fear and respect Kobe, and that's the thing. I mean, I think it's the same thing with Jordan. I don't think a lot of Jordan's teammates liked him either. Yeah, but they were all scared to hell of him. They all worked their ass off in practice because of him.
My thing with Kobe is, hey, there's always the underlying thing that he's on your side unless you do something wrong, and then he's not.
All right.
And that has been the pattern of his career. Nothing is ever his fault. His teammates aren't good enough. He needs the ball more. He needs this. He needs that. And he's never just one of those guys like, hey, we're all in this together. I just think when he tries to do it, it seems so contrived. Look, I voted for him in 2006. I thought he was the most valuable player to his team that year because that was a horrific
team. And they came within one Tim Thomas 3 of beating Phoenix in the playoffs.
And it was all because of him.
Yes.
That was by far his best season. I don't see how anybody could say that this was his MVP season and not the 2006 one.
But you're penalizing him for horrible voting. You can't say that, well, because of that. I mean, yes, he should have won in 2006, but he absolutely should win. I'm going by your criteria. All right, let's go to question number 2. In a giant pickup game with every NBA player waiting to play and 2 fans forced to pick sides of the lives depending on the outcome of the game. And I agree with you. I believe this is how this is how the Rucker League tournament works, I believe. You're right.
Yes.
Like the loser gets shot. Who would be the first player picked based on the way everyone played that season? It's Kobe. And you know what? You once wrote a great quote about Kobe. I'm forgetting this is a couple of years ago, but you said the thing
if you didn't pick him first, he'd kill you by going second.
Right. He would actually he's the kind of guy that not only would beat you, but actually push his hand into your chest, pull out your heart and show it to you.
Right.
Right? Like that was the quote you had about Kobe, and you agree with me there.
I do, although I think, it's really hard to tell how good LeBron is, and we're not going to know until he plays the Celtics or Pistons this year, but you could argue that it's 1A, 1B with him and Kobe now.
That one I don't have a problem with, but we're talking about
Chris
Kobe
Paul
versus
3.
KG. Chris Paul is 3, no question.
Well, look, I put Chris Paul ahead of Kobe, too, so.
You know what? And I actually had less of a problem with Chris Paul than I did of Kevin Garnett. Because to me, I think Chris Paul the Hornets just came out of nowhere, and the Hornets in the West, with not a lot of depth there.
Right. Well, you watch the first two playoff games, and
right.
You can clearly see exactly how much he means to that team.
Yes. How
indispensable he is, and how everything feeds off him, and also, he's their emotional leader too. And I don't think you could say that about Kobe.
I was in, here, you got another 9 Nipple Cow reference. I was in makeup for First Take this morning. I do a little fantasy minute on First Take every morning.
Well, we're half away from me hitting my bet.
Right. So, anyway, so I'm in and Gordon Galen, one of the producers, says to me, they're having this debate, and it's, him and Jamel Hill and Dana Jacobson. And so here's my question. This is what they asked me when I walked in. You're starting an NBA franchise today. You've got the number 1 pick.
LeBron.
No. LeBron's you've got the number 1 pick, and it's who do you start with, Chris Paul or Dwight Howard? It's got to be one of those two.
Chris Paul.
Yeah, that's what I said too. Gordon said Dwight Howard, and it was more split than I would have thought.
When I did my trade value column in February, I had Dwight Howard ranked above Chris Paul, but I think clearly something's happening here that's much. He's hit a level that I didn't think he would get to, Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean,
he eviscerated the Mavericks in those 2 games. Nobody can play any position better than he played his position in those 2 games.
I agree.
So now I'm starting to wonder, all right, do we now move this guy into the LeBron Kobe level? Like, I don't know.
No, I don't think he's at that level yet because.
But he could be after these playoffs. I mean, in 2 months he could be in the finals, and we could be saying this guy's one of the best 3 guys in the league.
If he's in the finals, I think you have to start that conversation. But the thing is, I mean, LeBron led a team that had no business being in the finals last year to the finals. And I mean, Kobe, if you say Kobe's the best player in the NBA, I think that's a reasonable statement. You may argue with me and you say, well, I like LeBron, I like KG, but
best all-around player in the NBA.
Right. So
he's so good defensively, and LeBron is not there yet, which is why I don't think. I think Kobe still gets the nod in that argument.
And by the way, if you've got Kobe and LeBron on your bench and it's you got 3 seconds to go and you need one guy to take a shot, you're giving it to Kobe.
Well, the shame of it was that we could have potentially answered this question, as strange as this sounds, in the All-Star game.
Yes.
Which, unfortunately, Kobe got hurt for, but I think that's a situation where it would have been a close game, and it would have been Kobe against LeBron in the last 3 minutes, and maybe it doesn't answer the question, but it gives us a little indicator into who's the alpha dog. I always wonder, LeBron's on the Olympic team, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And Chris Paul's on the Olympic team.
That's going to be a good Olympic team.
And Kobe's on the Olympic team.
Yeah, that's the kind of analysis I bring. That's going to be a good Olympic team.
This might be the most stacked Olympic team we've had in 16 years.
Yeah.
Because just having those 3 guys alone at the level they're playing at right now is better than anything we've had the last 16 years.
Right, absolutely.
What was the third MVP question?
The third MVP question, if you replaced every MVP candidate with a decent player at their position for the entire season, what would be the effect on their team's
records? Now, here's where I win the argument. Because Kobe you could replace with let's say you replaced him with Jason Richardson. The Lakers are still really good.
But but Jason Richardson isn't a decent player at the position. He's an above average player for the position.
Is he a top 8 shooting guard? I don't think so.
He's top 12.
For decent, right.
So what are you saying? Okay, Ethan, he's got to be number 8, so he's got to be mediocre. All right, fine. Jason Richardson. Fine. I think they're okay. But then who's a top 8 power forward? David West?
No, he's too good. He's too good. That's a tough one. I guess he'd have to.
Because my thing about Jason Richardson is that Jason Richardson doesn't have the defense that Kobe does, doesn't have the passing that Kobe does. That's the thing that people just don't understand about Kobe in the triangle.
Kobe's a very good passer. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. You're right.
So, and by the way, the triangle is all about passing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Lamar Odom, by the way, hasn't been completely horrific. It's because he's been such a good passer. By the way,
time, though. Give it time.
Give the last time we were on the podcast together, you argued and you totally dogged Lamar Odom. Will you back off a little bit?
No, absolutely
Come
not.
on, Lamar Odom has played great down the stretch and in these playoffs.
Yeah, you wait.
We'll see.
He's roping you guys in. Look,
he's going to pull
the
Memphis. He's going to pull a Memphis and clank those free throws when we desperately need them.
People don't think that I want the Lakers to do well, when actually the opposite is true, because they play 15 minutes from my house, and I would get to go to the games the further they get to go.
Yes.
So it's not like I have anything against them. I don't see the Kobe MVP thing, because nobody made a big fuss about it 2 years ago.
Kobe wasn't as beloved. I think Kobe...
What's so polarizing about him, do you think?
Oh, so much is polarizing about him. Are you serious on this one?
No. So I think, what do you think makes him so polarizing compared to somebody else?
I think there's a lot of people that are still angry about him about Colorado and the legal mess that happened there.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was so against his image at the time.
So you think people would just never forgive him for that?
I think there are definitely people that never forgave him for that. And by the way, I don't think he entirely played that right. You know, in the big diamond ring to his wife right afterwards. I mean, just there were a lot of mistakes publicity-wise that happened with that. And then the whole admission, I may have done something. It wasn't good. It wasn't good, and it also wasn't good because it was so. I mean, it was one of those things that's like if it happens to Charles Oakley, you're kind of like, all right, kind of a thought. You know what I mean? Like he was so squeaky clean. That was the image he presented, and then I think a lot of people blame him for being kind of selfish, being kind of prima donna, being they blame him for kind of the Shaq-Kobe divorce.
But why do you think the Lakers, the people who like Kobe, why do you think they get so defensive about it?
Because everyone else hates him. I mean, listen, I have my own issues with Kobe.
But I don't hate him. I don't hate anybody.
This is not true.
No, I just think
this is not true. I know we won't get into it, but I know people you hate. We've had discussions about people you hate.
No,
we've had them off the air.
I hated the way he played. I thought he was selfish. I don't think he's as selfish as he was, but you watch a game like Saturday when Gasol has a big first half, and then Kobe's got to get his in the second half. Like, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
Kobe should not care if other guys score on his team.
No, and
he shouldn't have had to take 26 shots in that game, and he did. He took 16 shots in the second half because Gasol was having a great game.
No, that's not true at all.
That is true.
They finally started playing some defense on Gasol.
No, he keeps track of all that stuff. He loves having Gasol there, but he doesn't want Gasol to do better than him. He's too competitive. And to be honest, I think Jordan was the same way.
He might have been, and by the way, that competitiveness is what makes Kobe great. I mean,
that's what I said. Like if in the mid '90s, if Tony Kukoc had 28 in the first half, Jordan's going to get his in the second half. So I'm not totally putting him down for that.
That may be fair. I mean,
that's how he's wired.
I think ultimately people that like Kobe, and I'm one of them. I mean, I'm a Kobe fan. Obviously, I'm a Laker fan, and Kobe's my franchise. But I think it's just because there are people that are so negative about him,
But it was deserved.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, part of the
problem is... This guy was the most talented guy in the league and was a head case.
You know what? I think also some people like just sort of they sense a sense of privilege from him. You know, he wasn't quote unquote some street kid. You know, he's a guy that grew up in Italy and speaks Italian and all this stuff. I'll say this though about Kobe is that he's one of these guys, I think in general, and this is just really basic, I think there's people that you look at and you like, and there's people you look at and you don't like. Like, this is the big thing on TV. It's just like you watch somebody on TV and you're like, I like that person. Are they necessarily the funniest or the... No, it's just you like watching them or you don't like watching them. Do they come across as likable? And, I think Kobe's one of those guys that you look at and you don't like him. He's never... but KG is one of those guys, he's always smiling. You do always like KG.
Right.
I mean, like, you could go through, like, I would argue KG likable. I would argue Ray Allen not likable. Just from the way, looking at him.
I can see that.
Tom Brady, one of those guys you just like. Peyton Manning, a guy you just like. Always smiling and, and always happy. I mean, I think, so I think it goes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is the Colorado thing. I don't think people ever forgive him for that.
I think that definitely that and Shaq.
Also, how it ended, I think people don't really forget either. Like that,
And Shaq.
You could say what you wanted, but yeah.
I mean, Shaq's a guy that's likable. You look at Shaq and you like Shaq.
Well, don't forget what Kobe
he's a big
did
funny
to Shaq.
guy, and
don't forget what Kobe did to Shaq, though. That whole thing,
right.
He threw him under the bus.
He did,
and a teammate, I think people were a little put off by that. I know I was.
Yeah, and I think basically, by the way, and I also think that's what hurts him in the NBA in terms of people liking him, amongst players.
Yeah.
Because, from what I know, and you're much closer to the NBA than I am in terms of the players and everything like that, but from what I hear, I mean, people respect Kobe, but they all like Shaq. Like, Shaq's like a guy that's great to go party with and have fun with and hang out with. He's always goofing around, great personality.
I've
Kobe
always
keeps
heard
to
that,
himself.
like, off the court, Kobe's his own entity. Nobody interacts with him. Nobody hangs out with him. Like, they have a party after they clinch whatever, and he's not there. And
right.
Stuff like that. I just think that is who he is. But I think most of it has to do with the fact that he had such a weird upbringing.
Yes.
He grew up in Italy, showed up here when he was like 17 or 18, and was immediately like this Philadelphia high school star, and then went to the NBA. All right, we could talk about Kobe all day, but we're coming up on the hour mark. Let's, before I let you go, Matthew Berry, talented Mr. Roto.
Yep.
3 guys in baseball that you think are worth either trading for or picking up on the waiver wire because they had slow starts.
Yep. I'll give you 2 National League guys and an American League guy. One is Kaz Matsui. Like him a lot. In his first 5 games, he's already stolen 2 bases. We've seen it with Michael Bourne. The Astros given the green light. And Matsui's a guy a lot of people feel like at a Coors, and I know his road batting average much lower than it was at home with Coors, but he's going to run. I mean, 2 stolen bases in 5 games. He's going to finish the year with 35, 40 steals. He's available in a lot of mixed leagues if you need middle infield help. So that's a guy I like.
You know what I like about him? And don't feel obligated to give me the obligatory fake laugh on this one.
Okay.
Kaz Matsui sounds like a hot restaurant in Hollywood.
Yes,
what are you guys doing tonight? We're going to Kaz Matsui.
All right, that's fair enough. By the way, that's a legit laugh. That's a legit laugh.
Yeah, they do that Asian fusion food. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that
would be a good list for you for your next list. 10 baseball players whose names could also be restaurants.
Could be also, yeah.
Because the best one ever was R.W. McQuarters, who's not a baseball player, but R.W. McQuarters should have been a sports bar, and frankly, there's still time.
Kobayashi.
Yeah, that's a good one.
R.A. Dickey, the knuckleballer. R.A. Dickey's.
R.A. Dickey's a good one.
That's a barbecue place. R.A. Dickey's.
God.
Let's go to R.A. Dickey's, the best barbecue in town.
I got the worst food poisoning at R.A. Dickey's.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what's the second one?
Second one is Connor Jackson, who I just absolutely love recently.
Hey, he's on the team in the league I'm in with you. He's on my team.
Connor Jackson? Oh, yeah. And he's going to have a huge year. You look at what he did since the All-Star break last year, and the RBIs are great. He's actually on pace to get over 160 RBIs this year. I think he finishes with 140. Like, I really think he's like a 30, 140 guy. Most people are like, he's high average. He's probably in the 20 homer potential. I think he's a 30-homer guy, and I think he's like in the 130, 140 RBI range.
I think Hack Wilson is terrified right now.
Yes, certainly everyone at the Hack Wilson estate and that has a stake in the Hack Wilson memorabilia biz.
Yeah, very upset,
very concerned about that. By the way, congratulations on getting a reference older than mine.
Thank you.
Into the podcast.
Oh, come on, he's the all-time RBI leader. People know who Hack Wilson is.
Sure, absolutely. The kids love Hack Wilson. I can't tell you how many kids right now on their iPods are texting their friends, guess what? BS just mentioned Hack Wilson. LOL.
Dude. Rafael Romeo.
Right.
How do you say that one? That was a great name. Hack Wilson.
Hack Wilson, yes.
That was the era where the nicknames were all like just fantastic.
Yeah.
One after the other. All right, who's your AL guy?
My AL guy, Adam Lind. He's, as of the podcast, currently in AAA Syracuse.
Yeah. To fill the big hurt shoes.
Yes, that's what's going to happen. He's going to get called up very, very soon, if he hasn't already during this podcast. And he was hitting like 370. Guy can absolutely rake. He's going to be an everyday player. I think he finishes the year with 20 home runs, and he hasn't even been in the majors yet. So there's a guy.
So you don't think Joe Inglett's going to hold on to that job?
I do not believe in the Joe Inglet. Although, for a deep AL-only league, he's a nice little player, but no.
I'm going to throw one guy at you for an AL-only league that I know you'll enjoy.
Okay.
Matt Tolbert of the Minnesota Twins.
You know what? Guys,
they can't keep him out of the lineup.
They can. He keeps hitting. He keeps hitting a lot. And, his only real competition, I guess, is, Nick Punto or Brendan Harris. He can play a lot of different positions, and
every year, I own my AL team with my buddy Hench. Every year in April, there's like one or two guys that emerge in the first 2 weeks, and nobody bids on them because they don't think they're for real, and then a week passes and everybody bids $8 for them.
Right.
So I was like, this Matt Tolbert, I just read an article, Ron Gardner loves him and can't figure out how to keep him out of the lineup. Let's just bid on him. And we bid on him, and he plays 5 times a week. He plays like every position for them, and he gets steals and he does stuff, so watch out for him.
No, I'm with you. I like Tolbert, especially in deeper leagues.
Yeah, I like those. That's what I like about being in an AL league versus a mixed league, is that you can have the Matt Tolberts of the world and enjoy them.
Yeah.
In the mixed league, those guys, those guys don't really exist. But anyway, all right, we got to let you go.
All right, dude.
As always, thank you. The talented Mr. Roto, available on about 40 different formats and platforms, the worldwide leader.
Yes. None of them nearly as popular as any of yours.
He'll be appearing in aisle 6 in the Bristol Stop and Shop from 5 to 6 tonight.
Yes, come on by.
Can see you in that. All right, we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
All right, dude.
Thanks.
So I get to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.